Well, hello there, community. I am Jason Rahn, and you are here for another episode of Build It Live with me and my partner in crime here, Aubrey King. Aubrey, how are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
I am well. I'm still not unpacked. You still see like a box behind me and over my shoulder here. That's like the office chair when I don't want to sit in my actual like desk chair just to do reading and whatnot. My wife comes in to talk to me. I haven't unboxed anything. We're still making our way around the house, and I still have a full garage, a full storage unit, and it is what it is. But eventually, I will have my office set up the way I want it to be set up, and it'll be good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm just admiring the color of your walls for the forthcoming breadboards.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, and I'll get my light out that'll be able to splash some color back there too. I do have the black backdrop from back when John and I were in the studios, so I can do it proper and like crush all the blacks and make it stellar that way too. But we're here today to build stuff, and this is going to be a slight departure from the shows that we've done before. Before, you and I are working in our own tenant and building things from scratch that that we're just discovering. But we actually have a guest today who's going to walk us through some relatively new tools that have come out for being able to move policies around and so what's exciting about that is there's a couple different ways you can approach that. You can do the one and done, or you can actually build out a suite of policies and move them around to different workloads and do all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to have him walk through that with us here in a minute. But anything you want to share before we bring on our guest?
I was just thinking I was super excited about, learning how to convert these, older AWAF and ASM policies. I think that's a spectacular thing because, I think there are those of us who have been running ASM or AWAF for a very, very long time and are curious, how we can move our game up into the cloud so that front door is in the cloud. So I'm having been an ASM person for quite some time. This to me is thrilling. I mean, really.
Yeah. And to be able to do it without reinventing the wheel, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, let's bring on our guest. Cameron, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Doing quite well.
Just got out of eternal meetings, so a little, gotta kind of move around a little.
Yeah, sometimes those long meetings are necessary, but man, that was a stretch, wasn't
it? Well, we got to know where we're going. Forward charge, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. So, Cameron, Aubrey mentioned, right before we brought you on that, you have these, I won't call them legacy products because they're still great products, but you have different environments you may want to carry the same for the policy towards. So it's not necessarily you're migrating away and then to, but you're building more. So you're trying to provide that same coverage you have in other places, and you don't want to recreate the same thing from scratch because the other environment needs something that's formatted a little differently. So what does that entail? Like what are you gonna share with us today?
Sure. Well, kind of exactly as you mentioned, as we have a diverse set of security products at F5, and giving our customers the flexibility to deploy things where they need them and how they need them. Not pigeonholing you into any specific deployment paradigm or anything like that. So we realized that as we kind of grew this flexibility and that customers are going to need a way to say take one from say a big IP and augment that with security use. If they're moving into kind of an edge architecture, moving into being able to there's some things that you want to block further out than the big IP, right at the edge, so we can move and give policy parity to the extent that each system supports the feature set. But we can move some of that stuff outside into the edge, and we can easily transfer and convert a policy that would be normally seen on, say, big IP to that edge WAF that we're deploying, which will be what we'll kind of run through today. But then there's also that use case where you might have a big IP that's protecting multiple legacy, or I don't want to say legacy, but monolithic type applications. And you're going to go through, say, a decomposing process on one of those applications, and you're going to migrate it into microservices, move it into Kubernetes. Well, you're still going to want to be able to provide that application the same level of security that you were providing it behind the big IP. It doesn't matter what its underlying application architecture is, you still want to protect it. So being able to then convert a policy into, say, something like Nginx App Protect that's doing also ingress into a Kubernetes environment, as you move that application and you're decomposing it down into its services, you still can easily convert that policy that you're doing on big IP right now and apply it to your Nginx App Protect and provide the same efficacy of security.
Nice. And go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, and that's kind of, we won't show that specific piece, but that's kind of the direction we're going with the demo here.
To me,
it's kind of nice. Go ahead, Aubrey.
I was going to say, to me, that's sort of perfect. I mean, we are seeing quite a few people in the community talking about shifting over to distributed cloud, as a resource as well. And the hot one really is getting those security policies up and out of the data center. It's just one layer of protection. If that attack traffic never makes it into your data center, so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also the use case where, we've seen customers deploying out multiple big IP, say like virtual editions out into whatever their public cloud of choice is, or hopefully multi-cloud, that they're starting to think in that multi-cloud frame of mind. Once you start getting a large number of security products that they're all going to require a policy, being able to actually even take a single policy living in your policy supervisor and then deploy it out to all of your WAF products at scale is also, kind of getting away from actually having to touch a box to go in and modify a security policy, or being able to tie everything into CI/CD, because everything that we're going to show here today can also be done, via the API, and we'll show that a little bit as well.
Cool. Well, you want to get into it?
Sure. All right. So first we'll go ahead and start with deploying out the policy conversion tool. So there's kind of two pieces of it. There's the policy supervisor, which is the full, you authenticate into it. So it's the full, say, tool. It's accessible from policysupervisor.io or directly from your distributed cloud console as well. So, but then there's also this conversion tool. And this is, no authentication to it. You can go to it right now at policysupervisor.io/convert and perform exactly what I'm going to do here. So whether you're, say you have a big IP and you have a policy that you want to export from there in JSON or XML, export it down to your local machine and then deploy it. Or if you're using something like what I'm going to do here, which is our, on GitHub, we have a policy templates for advanced WAF and ASM. So this is just using a cloned repo, that cloned repo. And I'm going to deploy out the rapid deployment policy here, or I'm going to use the rapid deployment policy here. And our source type in this case is advanced WAF. And our target, we're going to do distributed cloud. And then we convert. And so just take a moment. And see, really not that long at all. And it's going to give us a package that we have here. And if we look at this, what it gives us, so it's going to give us a report of everything that was converted or not converted and a reason why it was not converted. So if we bring this up, and I'll get my VS Code on the right screen here. There we go. So we have this conversion summary, and it's going to go through like everything that was converted, were there anything that's partially converted, what was not converted. So there isn't feature parity. Like the Big IP Advanced WAF is a dedicated security device with tons of years and years of added features added onto it. Not everything is going to be available on distributed cloud. So there will be some things that are not converted. It'll tell you whether there were any errors or what's going on with this, and it'll also tell you why something won't be converted as well. So you have these full conversion logs. Also, back here, we'll have, so this policy changed into a application firewall policy for distributed cloud, as well as a service policy for distributed cloud. So we'll take a look at the service policy first. And it's just, as you'd expect, a simple JSON formatted policy that can then be ingested by distributed cloud. And we'll take a quick look at what that looks like. So if we, the hotkey for select all, so all I'm doing is copying the JSON. And if we go into distributed cloud, and this was a service policy, and if we go to service policies, add new service policy, we of course have the form view that everybody's used to, but there's also the JSON view. And what we can do here is just take our security policy that we converted down, take our JSON, and save and exit, and this just created our service policy. And if we manage the configuration and view of the rules, this is what is the rules created by that JSON that we just put in. And then we do the same thing with our application firewall. If we just open this up.
So while you're moving that, is that an either or is that you're applying both pieces?
No, so that's both pieces. To get the features that were in the policy from Advanced WAF, you want to apply both of these, this for service policy and the application firewall.
Gotcha. So you're creating an app firewall, you're creating a service policy, and then those two objects would then be applied to your inbound load balancer?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And so here's our...
And you would have to do that manually, yeah?
Yeah, so this is a manual process on
Perfect
conversion here. It's mainly just meant to be a simple tool that folks can go to right away, quickly and easily convert a policy in just a matter of moments. And then you would go in and just edit the configuration of your load balancer, enable your firewall, and apply that policy that we just created. So that's the policy conversion tool. But now there's also the policy supervisor tool, which is a much...
I have a quick question before we move on.
Sure.
There are some community members out there that had used Waffler in the past. So was there relation? Were these two kind of the conversion tool? Were they sort of related projects?
Correct. Yeah. So the conversion tool was born from Waffler. You could say. So that was a project that was done by someone on my team actually, and kind of went up through the promotion process within the company, and there's definite value in it. So that it formed into what we have today.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's cool.
So this is the and just to give you an idea of what this looks like. So once you go to policysupervisor.io, you're presented with an authentication mechanism, or you can go directly to that conversion utility. So we're using Azure AD here. And so in the policy supervisor, we have the concept of providers, and these are providers of WAF services, right? So from that perspective, so we have Big IP, distributed cloud, and Nginx. So first we'll take a look at Big IP. Now, I already have one added here, but just to go through the actual provider process, you just click on Add Provider here. We're going to do our type is going to be Big IP, and then it uses an agent. Now this, you download this agent from, so this will link out to GitLab. You download the agent, you run it on a, so what I'm going to show is just an EC2 instance that can connect to my Big IP, and that's all it is. And this will run, the agent will run on that instance and facilitate connectivity to that Big IP. Essentially what it is a vault instance. So it's storing the credentials to log into that Big IP securely. It's there. Those credentials are not stored in the policy supervisor tool. They're stored in something that the customer controls. So they don't have to worry about those kind of security controls going on, under the hood here of the policy supervisor. And
it's
then,
a service jump box instead of a user jump box, right?
Yeah. I have it installed on my jump box in AWS.
Okay.
And if we look here, we'll kind of go through the process of adding a secret. When we run the agent here, it's going to give us this option. So this is after the install, obviously. So the install is just going to go through. And as we saw here, we have this token. We add that token when we run the installer. That's what's going to allow it to, know what it's connecting to. In this case, so we're just going to add a secret, and that's going to be our, we'll call this. And now we're going to do username. So it gives you the info of what you need for Big IP and XE providers, which actually their XE provider isn't. So this is a little bit of a misnomer here. And I'll show you the XE piece here in a moment. But we just use the username and password for the connection. So from the Big IP standpoint, that's going to be admin, and then the admin password.
Which is what in all your environments? Oh, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
How's it going? Hopefully I'm saying your name right, Sheikh. Welcome.
From India.
If we were doing Nginx, we would be also providing an SSH key here. And as you can see, if the SSH key is set, it'll take precedence over whatever username and password you give.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you can continue to add, no matter, however many Big IPs you add, you just continue to add them with the secret, adding secret. So it's all one agent. It's not like you have to install an agent for each provider that you're putting out there. It's one agent and it'll connect out to multiple providers.
Okay.
So that's it. And that's done there. And then I'm going to switch my screen share to where it's, I don't have to keep looking over to the side.
Well, we are we're doing good, actually, just to kind of put that up there. It's got to be like early in the morning there in India, I would think, eh? Late, one of those two.
So here, hopefully you can still see my screen.
Oh, yeah, we got it. It's
Okay,
the same one. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
So, and then if we refresh here, or whoops, our agent, we do a refresh here, and we can see here's that secret I just added. I continue, and then we'll give this. And then we'll need our.
And right now you're adding a provider.
Big IP. Yeah, I'm adding a Big IP. So take a moment. And when this completes, we're going to have the opportunity to either go as is, or we're going to be able to import or ingest all of our current, whatever is currently on this device that we've just onboarded. So we can go directly into adding another provider, or we can ingest the configuration. Now this is just a, so I used the F5, hybrid security architectures repo to deploy out a big IP distributed cloud and a sample web app. We can provide that as well if folks want to run through the demo themselves. But one of the things that does is that CI/CD does is it deploys out a default, it uses AS3 to deploy out a virtual server on the big IP and a WAF policy. And so that's the one that we're going to ingest here. And we can also bring in all of our denial of service and bot defense policies.
That's cool.
Hey, real quick, just to answer this question. The agent's installed like on an EC2 instance or some kind of jump box that has access to your end devices, right? Your end big IPs that you're going to connect to.
Correct. Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, completely in the customer's control.
So it's not an agent that lives on the big IP.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no overhead on any of the devices. It's just kind of this autonomous little container that sits out there and runs Vault to connect all the or to save all the secrets in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of GitOps underneath the hood here. So you're going to see a lot of things like an ingestion note, which is a commit message. So we'll just give this a
now. Just curious, the key that you mentioned, that the agent, is that related to Wingman? I'm just curious if that I thought that was a proprietary Volterra piece of technology that we ended up bringing in during that acquisition.
I haven't heard that.
Okay.
It's entirely possible. I'm not sure.
It's just it's an interesting container. It's like it's a sidecar that its whole responsibility is just key management.
Yeah, well, there's also there is a client on it, a policy supervisor client that kind of facilitates the connectivity as well.
Okay. So sounds similar to me. And now, so it's how many policies, I guess, can you ingest? I mean, are there restrictions on this, or?
I have not. So I believe the last number that I had seen was in the hundreds in terms of how many you can ingest. I can switch to another namespace that has many more, and I can see how many that has real quick as well. So when we ingest it, it's going to do something. It's going to convert some things into the common declarative policy framework. And then it's also going to store some things maybe in a native framework, if it's, say, native to just big IP. So in this case, it's stored 227 items, and it converted 31. So that conversion is into CDP. And that's pretty much it. You can also export the conversion logs and things like that.
And for the Cisco network people out there, CDP in our context is?
It's well, I said it and then I lost it. Common declarative policy.
Okay. Not Cisco Discovery Protocol for you Cisco people out there.
Yeah. Sorry
and
for
that CDP, that's just a way for it's a format, right, of policy, so that for AWAF we have it in specific schemas in XML or JSON or whatever, and then as it gets moved around to the other supported services, security services that we have, it's a way to just across the board, this is what we're going to define it as common amongst all of them, and then we can convert it as necessary to the other formats. That fair?
That's fair. Okay, so and then here's our policy that we just ingest it in from that provider. And so while we're here, let's also take a quick look at like what we can do with actually this policy that's sitting here. So this is just a much like when we converted our policy in the conversion tool, we can do a straight conversion right here. We can deploy from here. We can export it in full JSON, but also we can come in and edit the policy. And if you're familiar with VS Code, this will look a little familiar. So this is a full editor with tab completion, and you can go in and modify your policy here on the fly and save it. You can also, let me save here. You can also generate, oh, should have saved and exit. You can also generate a new policy from here, and this will use a template. Here, which is the base AppSec policy template. And if we continue, it's going to bring up the editor on that template. You can add, change what you will, save and exit, and it's going to be another policy that you have available here to deploy out to your devices.
So can you tell me what that did? Is it applying what you had in your policy to the things that were already in the base policy?
No. So all this did was, the first one was just kind of showing the edit. I didn't make any changes to this. And then this one was just actually creating a completely new policy from scratch, or well, from a template that exists in Policy Supervisor. But it wasn't really connected to anything that I had done with ingesting the policy at all. Okay. It's just while we were here, I wanted to show the
Gotcha.
Policy editor.
Okay, good deal.
So if we look back at providers and we look at distributed cloud here, so we have our two big IPs that we have, and this distributed cloud instance. Now, this type of provider is actually different than the agent that we do with big IP or distributed or Nginx. So when we look at the provider here and go to distributed cloud and add a secret, so what this is looking for is an API token. And in distributed cloud, we go here to our administration sessions, management, and credentials. We have the ability here to create, ignore my one password there, an API certificate. So we'll
and it's worth noting these do expire.
They do expire. And make sure that when they do expire, you go in and clean them up, just for sanity's sake. So we just create our token and copy here. We go back to our and you're going to need to, so we'll call this. You need the your tenant's URL.
Yep, perfect.
Now, does that connect you to a particular namespace to do this, or do you select that in this process? So after you have your provider.
So this will add your provider as available, and then whatever so you and whatever your API token has access to, whether that's like mine has access to that entire tenant, so I can access all of the namespaces, but it would be restricted to whatever that API token is restricted to.
Okay.
Yeah, the token's tied to your user, so whatever your user has access to, you should have access to that.
So, and here as simple as that, we have our XC environment set up. So getting your devices in here, you can do them one after another. It's fairly simple, just that initial agent install and creating all your secrets, of course, and then your API keys for your XC providers. Now, what we can do here now is, let's say we'll go out to this big IP, and of course, I'm going to get a 503 for some reason.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
There we go. So in here, we get on it, we can see that how many virtual servers we have, the partition, and if any deployments had been done to it, as well as we can go in after the fact and ingest policies. So if we're just trying to get everything in, we can go in a later time and not have to wait for the policy to come in. So now let's go ahead and do a deployment. So this is the rapid deployment policy from, or actually let's just do the WAF policy that we brought in from directly ingested in, and say I want to have this converted and deployed out to distributed cloud. So we can go right here from policy, and that you can also I'll show you another area where you can go to deploy as well, but just choose our deployment, our provider, which is going to be our source, or excuse me, this is our destination. And you can, add providers directly from here as well.
Okay, so that was an interesting question of mine too. So I could blast policy out onto 16
Multiple
boxes at
providers.
once.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
With multiple endpoints as well.
Very cool.
So it's going to first take that policy, which is now, in that CDP format, as well as some advanced WAF format, and it's going to convert that into something that XC will accept. So if we can look at, XC or distributed cloud requires, I can't remember the full specification name, but essentially what it is lowercase characters or dashes, right? Or numbers. So it automatically changed that name, changed that camel case name to WAF policy. And then we also have, we can see that, well, this evasion here is not supported in distributed cloud. So it tells us that this violation is unsupported. And that's the one that's not converted here. And then we can go in and see some specifics in, what was converted from the stored, what was converted from CDP, and our full, here's our non-converted one, our full report on what happened. And after the fact, we'll be able to view this conversion report as well as export it as we need to. So if we're satisfied with the conversion, we go ahead and continue with our deployment. And so here in distributed cloud, we can choose whatever targets we want to, or load balancers in this case, we want to apply it to. I'm going to apply it to this guy here, and I'll apply it here as well. That's
just the light gray. That was the namespaces, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And then we'll just deploy this out.
Now that provider was, yeah, okay. Wow. This is incredible.
A lot of easy buttons in this.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? We want to make it easy.
Exactly.
I have to say, I was on the distributed cloud sales team before this, and this was one of the most frequently asked questions we had. And it was like, I'm already running, a WAF, whether that, and most of the time we were hearing, either depending on the use case, either Big IP or Nginx. So how am I going to be able to get this policy that I've used for 5 years into distributed cloud? Wow.
And then we can, export off our conversion summary, everything that happened from our report. So we successfully attached the policy and service policies that were converted from that advanced WAF policy onto the 2 load balancers here in distributed cloud. And if we go over and take a look at that, and if we look at our providers real quick, we can see that our deployment has increased as well. if we go into deployments, we can see that there is, we can get back to our report on the deployment, see that we had 2 successful deployments to distributed cloud there. And if we take a look at, go back in here to distributed cloud in our web app and API protection service. So here we can see this, one of the load balancers. If we manage that configuration, we can see that WAF policy is now applied, and any and all service policies are applied as well. So this converted into 4 service policies. So HTTP rules, external allow, and I don't remember what MC is in this case. But you can see that it doesn't just kind of lump everything into a bunch of roles. It's methods, is the MC. It doesn't just lump all of the rules into one service policy. It gives you like kind of an itemized service policy, so you can, with convenience, I'm not sure MC would be convenient naming, but at least a way to determine what those actual rules are doing, or what the policy's purpose is. And it adds those. It also, if we take a look at that other tenant that I have, and that load balancer here, which I believe this is where I applied it. Yeah, so we can see that we have our WAF policy applied here as well, to include our service policies. So that's an easy way for folks to go out and deploy, ingest something in from Big IP, have it live as a living thing within Policy Supervisor that they can modify, change, enhance how they want to, and then deploy it, convert it, and deploy it out to distributed cloud in this case. But we can also take that policy, say we did, or this new one that we created, or this rapid deployment policy that I had uploaded earlier from the GitHub repo. So we can actually take this and then deploy this directly to our Big IP. So if we look at, bring that Big IP up. So if we look at our Big IP here, we only have that one service policy there. I mean, in any of the tenants, there's just that, or that one WAF policy there.
WAF policy, yeah.
And say I've got this plus 10 other, Big IPs that I need to deploy out this rapid deployment policy to. So in this case, we'll take our Big IP. Let's overload another acronym here, rapid deployment policy. And we'll do the conversion summary again, which should be pretty minimal considering it's advanced, it's native to what we're sending it to.
While that's going, just a question offhand, maybe Aubrey or Cameron, you guys know this, but when you mentioned that it breaks all the service policies down into individual policies instead of putting them all in one, do you know if there's a performance hit for one with many rules versus many with a single rule? Is there a performance hit either way with that, or do you know? I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
I don't know. To be honest, when it's in the order of operations as it goes through, I don't know if that's like a hook into another something else that it has to process, or if it all kind of gets lump sum process. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm just gonna jot down, just follow up on it.
All right, so we'll just save and continue. You see that everything was converted. There was nothing that was not converted, and continue out to our deployment. We're going to choose our virtual servers. There's just our one service main here on the Big IP. So we'll apply it to him. But if there were more, him or her, don't want to be, gendering them there, but you could have multiple, multiple tenants, deploy them out to, multiple Big IPs, multiple tenants, multiple endpoints or virtual servers on each of those Big IPs as well. So it really helps you scale out your deployment.
So
seriously, wow.
I have a couple of questions there. One of the things that I watched on your screen as we were going through that was data guard. And that was one of the questions that I ended up fielding a while back at I think KubeCon last year. So this is going way back. Was, is there a way we're going to see things like data guard on N plus with NAP? Like, will we be able to apply data guard to distributed cloud or to N plus, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that'd be something I'd have to take back. I'm not sure
Okay.
what all features. I know we're trying to wrap up as many, in terms of feature parity across them all, as many that are logical. Like XC already has data guard, but in terms of manipulating any type of data guard policy, I'm not sure when or that would be coming.
Yeah, I
guess another question real quick before we review that report around. So in the conversion, there was like one thing that wasn't converted. Is there guidance in the tool at all to say, okay, this didn't convert, here are some options, or is that something that you just have to investigate? Because I can see that some things like, oh well, there are alternatives so if this is going from AWAF to XC, here's an alternative way to handle the thing that didn't convert, and you can go about it differently. But maybe some things it's not, and then you gotta like, okay, am I okay with that, or I need to maybe rethink what I'm moving.
Right. That capability is not, there is nothing that's doing that. But I mean, that is a very excellent feature request for sure. As someone using this, I would want to know it. I would, of course, I would start researching, trying to figure it out. But if I had something that would point me, say, even if it was just a pointer to a doc on f5.com or something, or DevCentral that gives that type of guidance, I think would be very valuable.
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Now there have been a couple questions actually. So if we could take a moment here, I do have one from Daniel Wolf. He was talking about Waffler having drop downs or checkboxes for enabling signatures and whatnot. But it for me brought up a different question or another question, or related question. If I had an existing deployment here, how would I go ahead and then add XSS or SQLi to that, to that deployment?
So that's a good question. So you would want to edit. So kind of before where we showed that the ability to bring up the editor and change things.
So it's just JSON.
Right. So there's that right now. In terms of actually currently like graphically building a policy within Policy Supervisor, that doesn't currently exist. Okay. That doesn't mean it won't. In that type of situation, say it's XC and you have 50 endpoints that need this change. Probably the best way to do that would be or we'll use big IP as a better example. So we have 50 big IPs that all need this change to a policy. The other than making the edit directly in JSON, I guess the recommended, or what I would think is the recommended path would be to go onto one of those boxes, or hopefully even you're keeping your policies in version control and in that type of situation, and you're going back into your dev environment and you're making a change to which that dev environment might be that big IP that's in your staging or whatnot, would be another big IP here as a provider. You'd go into that big IP, make the changes how you like them on the big IP device itself, vet those, based on, load testing, efficacy testing, all of your smoke tests that you're going to run for any type of deployment, kind of get to the idea or the point where you're thinking of a declarative policy or a policy in JSON as just as another piece of code, right? So maintaining your security policies as code, like I would recommend you do with, say, an iRule, keep it in version control, same kind of situation. So test that in your development or your staging environment, your dev environment. And then as a promotion, a way to promote that out into production, use policy supervisor then to, ingest that policy, that modified policy, ingest it, and then deploy it out with versioning out to all of your big IP devices. That's kind of the way I would go about it now.
Perfect. That's a great answer, and I think that the second part of Daniel Wolf's question was, will we get that too, or pure JSON? So we answered that perfectly. There was another one in here that was, can we export and ingest DDoS policies as well? Now, I would ask if you mean layer 3-4 DOS. I'm assuming not. This is an L7 typically conversation, but what do you think, Cameron?
Well, so it does ingest any, so as we saw when we saw the ingestion of the policies from the big IP, it did pull in, we pulled in a DOS policy as well as a bot policy. In terms of how those get, deployed out, I haven't tried deploying, that situation. So I'd have to go back and see, where that process is, and I can provide you guys an update, and then can.
Okay. Well, and he specified L7 DOS anyway. So
yeah.
Okay, and there was one more. What about existing exceptions that we have against all the rules in the security policy? To me, it sounded like those get converted. Or come along with.
Those
will come along. Everything that's in the policy will come along with. And if conversion is supported and there is feature parity for whatever it is being done on whatever the target is, then it should be applied as well.
Okay. Fantastic. That's it for the questions at this point. Unless if you have any more questions out there, we're here. So pop them in.
Yeah. Right. So, and we can see our report here is done. We deployed our rapid deployment policy and attached it to service main. If we go to our big IP here and do a refresh on this guy, we can see our rapid deployment policy is deployed.
Wow. It came down transparent. So if that's if the policy is already in blocking, it will come down in blocking.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Yep. So and we can see that.
And that's where you can edit as well, right? Before you deploy.
Yep. And sure where it is in here somewhere. And I can see the I can see the desire for something, graphical to be used. These policies can get very long. So I definitely see the value in his question. But yeah, in here is the whether it's in blocking mode or transparent, or how it's set. And we have that. If we look at, we should be applied to our endpoint. And it didn't apply, so I wonder what happened there. So it should apply. Or so I'm not sure why it didn't. The live demo bug here.
That never happens.
It should deploy.
But that's honestly, Cameron, that's why we do this show. That's exactly why. Yeah,
it says attached here. It should be attached. I'll have to dig in and figure out why that didn't attach. Or actually, yeah, it was a rapid deployment policy. Okay, but for for a live demo, one failure, I'll accept it. I was prepared for much more.
that was to me that's spectacular. No, another question came up for me because I've been a WAF user since ASM. I loved, at the second that I saw it. There was one of the things that my customers loved when I was in SE was the kind of pre-canned policies that we have for some of the more common deployments, like there were things for, you know, OWA and whatnot,
Mhm.
and various Oracle products and such in the past. So will we be able to have those in Policy Supervisor to begin with, and then deploy to any of those environments that we saw?
So that would be a good. So I'll bring that back to the team. That would be, you know, a very good idea for a template here.
Templates, yeah.
Um, so to add as a template so that you could create it, you know, directly from, you know, whether it's, you know, the OWASP ready template or whatever template we want to use. Right now, there's just this base AppSec security policy, but this will, you know, be populated more as we move along.
It seems though, like even short of us doing that, it wouldn't take very long at all to create those templates from ASM or AWAF, and you know, you create those locally, and then it's a matter of, you know, a couple easy buttons in there to then create your you can create templates
Yeah.
in there, right? So as long as you can
Yeah,
create templates, then you take what you've imported, create them to templates, and you're good to go.
yeah. You know, simply is of course it's, you know, it's not as seamless, but it's definitely, you know, pretty easy to go in here and export out your policy into JSON or XML, and then import that into the policy supervisor as your, you know, as your
Yeah,
base for that. So a couple
yeah,
extra hoops and jumps, but I would also expect, you know, in time for more, uh, you know, templates to be added on as, you know, native to the platform itself.
Nice. I like this a lot. Like I see so many applications for this, and it sounds like, you know, at least from the few people that we've got on from the community here, it sounds like it resonates. So that's a good thing for sure.
Yeah,
got a lot of
I mean,
value here.
as
Yeah.
our environments grow, and as our say, you know, we have an app and it's getting popular, and we need to scale that out as much as possible to handle our user base, you know, starting to maintain, and this was kind of that the of that article, or the blog post in the YouTube video that I created around this was kind of more from the framework of like mitigating policy complexity in terms of, you know, I have this one policy, but it might need to go out to, you know, however many devices, and to, you know, that kind of old way of doing things where we'd go out to each device and make a change, and then kind of, you know, sequentially go down the line is, you know, we're a long way from that. So, you know, kind of what I talk about in the article and in the YouTube video is like, first, you know, number one, let's start making sure that we treat our policies as code and keep them in version control, and you know, load test them, smoke test them, make sure that, you know, their efficacy, and then that way, you know, using things like AS3 and CI/CD, we can make sure that every time we deploy out a big IP, it's got everything that we needed right away. Um,
Yeah.
so there's that aspect. And since Policy Supervisor also has a full API, we can tie in things to that deployment process. Like, well, one step in our CI/CD pipeline is to actually onboard these new, you know, advanced WAFs that we're deploying automatically out into Policy Supervisor. So we can do that, you know, via API. We can, you know, you know, add it in, and as well as ingest all of the policies that it has into there. So it really kind of helps the CI/CD story as well. And then also, what I really liked about it is it takes the need for domain knowledge of the underlying architecture, or where something is deployed, away from each person. As a security engineer, you might not need to know that this endpoint lives in distributed cloud, or this endpoint lives on a big IP that's, you know, in US West 1, or in Azure or GCP. It shouldn't matter to this, me as a security engineer deploying out this policy. And this kind of abstracts that all away. So you can just, all you're caring about is your providers, your endpoints. As long as those endpoints are named logically, really the underlying infrastructure, I don't really need to know anything about.
Yeah. On one hand, I love that. On the nerd knobs hand, I hate that. It's like,
Yeah.
because I want to know how all the things work. I want to pull the hood open and pull wires and start the car. Oh, wait, that was bad. Let me plug that wire back in.
Yeah.
I like to understand, but the reality is, as we've completely thrown the KISS principle out the door, in modern architectures, it's really hard to know it all. And so being able to abstract away the things that are domain specific knowledge that you don't really need to know or care about, it's nice to know that option exists.
Right. Yeah. And I agree 100%. You want to know everything and find as many knobs and widgets there are to twist as possible. But then there's also what's the level of knowledge that we expect a new grad or someone that's right out of self-taught coming in with little to no experience to get their foot in the door in the security engineering realm, keeping things kind of simple to start out, I think is very beneficial for that type of environment. Let people kind of grow into knowing all of the different widgets and knobs.
Well, there's actually, we just had one more quick question, and I don't know if we are kind of coming up on time, but we did have another question from the community if we have a moment. And I think this is a pretty valid one. And thanks for asking so many questions, Shake. It's fantastic. F5 Silverline WAF policy, that's a big IP, right? So I know there is a conversion underway to XC. I think all Silverline customers have found out about this. It's known. So can people use this policy supervisor to convert ahead of schedule for themselves?
So this doesn't have, Silverline is not a provider for, an official provider for the, or I'm going to say official, it's not a provider for the policy supervisor. If it's something that is living in a big IP, that's the underlying architecture, whatever that policy is can be converted with this. I wouldn't necessarily say though that this should be relied on to move from Silverline to.
I was just going to say, I think that the SOC can export your WAF policy as a Silverline customer and give that to you in XML format, if I'm not mistaken. It would take a little bit of massaging, I would think, based on what we've seen. But version wise, I'm not sure how that would work either. So
yeah.
It's a tough one.
That might be a little more quicksand than I'd be prepared to. I definitely is more quicksand than I'm willing to make the recommendation for.
Although if you're a Silverline customer, feel free to call the SOC and they.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And we can see here that we store all of our conversions and all of our deployments. We can access full logs for each of those, as well as generate any reports.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, Cameron. I thank you for making the time to come share Policy Supervisor with us and the Convert tool. For those of you that just need a one and done, the Convert tool is great for those of you that want to be able to manage your policies and workloads and all that. That's fantastic tool. Thanks for sharing it with us today, and thanks for being here.
Absolutely. And here in this other namespace, we can see there's only 13 policies currently in there, but absolutely can handle more than that. I'm not sure how many. We just have one provider out, but it definitely scales. I believe that the number I had heard was hundreds. So
yeah,
cool.
All
right, great.
All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks. And
Take care.
I giggle now, just because Jose at the end, right? How you doing, Jose? Sorry.
That's right. Yep.
All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin the role there, Jason.
No, you're all good. Appreciate it, Cameron. Have a great one. All right. Well, hey, that's another Build It Live. it was kind of nice to sit back and let somebody else drive the car, because we got to, look out the windows and watch him turn all the nerd knobs and play. So that was exciting.
Well, yeah, and I mean, geez, we should, if anyone wants to come on and build it live with us, that's a great thing. We love that.
That's right. Yeah. If any one of you guys want to join us for one that are watching, we'd be glad to have you on as a guest, and you can just shoot the breeze with us while we build things. So reach out to us on DC or otherwise, and we'll do that in the future. We do have, if you missed Boo's show on Tuesday, his conversation with Dan Moore on OAuth for mobile apps. Make sure you go check that out on DevCentral. I'm sorry, on YouTube, because that was a great show. I learned a lot listening to their conversation. And we do have some shows coming up. Boo will get those published as they're, as he's ready for them. I do know I have I have one coming up. I get the host. DevCentral Connects in November, so it's not immediate, but I've got one coming up as well. So we'll have some more Build It Lives coming. I know I've got a couple Code It Lives that are coming, and I'm really, really excited about a project that I think I'm going to tackle launching in probably January, and it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a lot, and so I'm excited about it. But I got a lot to get ready for it. But anyway, I'm rambling now. So I'm excited to be back in the swing of things with the community and these live streams, and it's always a joy. It's always a pleasure. Aubrey, thanks for being here, and community. We will see you in we'll see you when we see you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Well, thanks for checking out that video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. You might want to check out one of these videos over here. And if you haven't already, go check out community.f5.com. This is where all the DevCentral Connects hosts hang out, as well as the rest of the community. It's free to sign up, and we'll see you there.